The first 3 weeks of March feel like they're quite pivotal. The invitation here that is present is to break old thought patterns or mental loops that have kept us stuck for a really long time. So, today we're going to talk about control, surrender, timing, and how all of that may be showing up as a sense of discomfort that is becoming increasingly important for us to confront for our own evolution. And later in the video, I'm actually going to guide us through a somatic practice so you can experience control and surrender and how they feel in your body today. So stay tuned for that. The reason that this is coming up so strongly right now is because we recently had this lunar eclipse in Virgo. That was on March 3rd. And before that, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th. Now, when we have eclipses, when we have transits, they don't just end during that time, right? They're a part of a cycle, and we're still very much in that eclipse energy. So this lunar eclipse was opposing a Pisces stellium, which is very active still in the sky. Venus has now moved on into Aries and is conjunct Saturn and Neptune, but Sun, Mars, Mercury retrograde, and North Node are all sitting in Pisces still. And this axis of Virgo and Pisces has a lot to do with this control and surrender theme. These transits are asking us to confront something really important here. When we have this many planets in Pisces, the invitation here is to find a balance within that archetype. So when we think about Pisces and we think about unconditional love and imagination and fantasy and spirituality and surrender, there are shadow aspects of that which can really be difficult for us to even see that we're doing, especially in the spiritual space, because surrender is so often talked about as this like very righteous thing. But surrender is often unconsciously used as an excuse to avoid and stay in fantasy much more than it is to actually be involved in life while surrendering the outcome of the process, which is really what surrender is about. It's an active, active participatory ideal. It's not a passive collapse. It's not a resignation. And so often in our minds and in our bodies, this gets confused. And this is really important because Pisces rules in a lot of ways possibilities beyond the mind, right? I talked about this in my Mercury retrograde video. Pisces is beyond the conscious mind, it's beyond the logical mind. And so, this idea, this control and surrender, is so important to talk about because magic isn't just something that you find, it's something that you create. This is something that came up for me actually really recently during a day-long silent meditation retreat. So I went and it was 8 hours of silence and meditation, and I spent about 6 hours of that just really thinking. And I practice Theravada Buddhism. I do insight meditation. In insight meditation, it's okay to think. We just want to notice that we're thinking and note it, and then come back to our anchor, come back to our breath. And I didn't really do that, you know? And so when I left, I remember just being like, oh, kind of happy with myself, like I was like, okay, well, I did the best I could, and I did a lot of thinking. And I remember in that moment, the feeling that I had in my body, it wasn't even like a critical, it was quite expansive. But it was like, are you really are you really proud of that though? Did you really try? Did you have any sort of desire to really be present today? Because there was a lot of excuses. I was so tired. I didn't sleep well the night before. I hadn't sat in meditation on the floor that long in, several months. And my back hurt, all this stuff. Cultivating presence takes energy. Presence is an active participation in the present moment. So being aware of thoughts and all these things, it takes energy. But I realized when I left that there was a part of me that felt like I had just kind of given up. And when I thought about my recent meditations for like the couple weeks before that, I felt the same way, that I had just kind of given up. And I had used this idea that it's okay to think, it's okay to actually allow myself to give up. So surrender is active participation in the process, doing my best to pay attention, and surrendering, will I feel mindfulness during this time? Will I be enlightened or whatever? And instead, it was definitely me zoning out and calling it compassion, calling it surrender. When in fact, I spent 8 hours there that day, and I feel like a loving, compassionate act towards myself was to really try my best, right? And this can really teeter across, criticism and not compassion. But the way that I experienced this was not that I was picking myself apart, but there was a part of me that recognized in that moment, yeah, I think I could have tried maybe 10% harder. And so I didn't beat myself up. I just said the next time, for over this next week, I'm going to try 10% harder at my meditations to really not allow myself to just drift off. And this is actually something that comes up in Buddhism a lot, is that there is a certain level of effort that's required. And also, if we try to force that effort, that's not really going to help us either, right? So if we even shift this over to uh, our spiritual systems like astrology and human design and tarot, all these things, a lot of these themes around control and surrender come up here as well, because the mind can use a lot of things, including spiritual systems, to avoid true surrender. Right. So control can be disguised as timing, control can be disguised as discernment, as responsibility, right? Like, I'm not ready yet. I need to learn more. Control disguised as spiritual awareness, right? I know that Mercury's retrograde, so I'm not going to do this thing yet. And to be quite honest, I love timing. And I think timing really does, I mean, it does, cycles affect our psychology in a really real way. Saying that the energetic weather does not affect us is like saying the weather doesn't affect us, of course, if it's snowing outside and I want to go for a run, I would much prefer to have a sunny day. But if there's snow, I can still go for a run. It just might mean that I need to prepare better, or I might really need to release the idea that I'm going to have a 10-mile run. Maybe it's going to be a 1-mile run. Maybe I need to change the route and go a different way. That reminds us that energetic weather, timing, alignment, they're all invitations. They're not handcuffs, they're not dictators. And March, especially the first 3 weeks, really strips the guarantee of any sort of outcome in your life and asks for more participation in the process. So it's not just surrender, because as I mentioned, the shadow of this can be avoidance and staying in the fantasy realm. But what if your need for the right timing is the actual thing that's delaying your life? The right sign, the right transit, the right person. If that's a narrative that you've been working under, this month might feel confronting. And the way, like I said, that I like to think of this is that I love myself and my life and this universe too much to not try 10% harder. Because honestly, the right time to begin, the right time to move, the right time to act is when you're willing to take responsibility for the outcome. I want to read something from The Artist's Way, which is a beautiful book by Julia Cameron and really great for the creative process. I will actually be doing my next group program will be about creativity. So I don't have it out yet, but if you want to know when that comes out, make sure you join my newsletter in the description box down below. It's called Creative Rewilding, and it will be very action oriented, and it will be giving you structure and somatic guidance and astrology and human design and support for you to start making your creativity a part of your lived experience again, and to take it seriously, to put in that little bit of extra effort if that is something that has been calling for you. So let me read this quote by her, and she's talking about magic and abundance in our lives through the creative process. She says, "This is a conscious partnership in which we work along slowly and gradually, clearing away the wreckage of our negative patterning, clarifying the vision of what it is we want, learning to accept small pieces of that vision from whatever source, and then one day, presto, the vision seems to suddenly be in place. In other words, pray to catch the bus, then run as fast as you can." I just love that. Praying to catch the bus is holding that vision, is having faith, is believing in the possibilities. And then we run, right? And one of the biggest things that happens with Pisces is confusion, right? It's like, which direction do I run in? And I think what Virgo reminds us is that small, consistent steps, and these are both mutable signs, we adjust, right? We take steps and we're like, oh, actually, that didn't really quite work. And actually, without even just telling you guys about it, let me allow you to experience it. If it feels safe for you, we're gonna do a fun little practice. If you can close your eyes, feel free to do that. You don't have to close your eyes to practice this, but if it's safe for you to close your eyes, feel free to do that. I'm gonna say two different statements. Neither is better than the other. There is no right or wrong answer. So please don't try to, judge yourself or think you should feel a certain way. I just want you to observe what happens in your body when I read these statements, okay? Statement number 1. The right time to start your business is when Jupiter enters your 7th house and the transits are supportive. If you launch then, the outcome will be great. You'll attract the right clients, things will unfold easily. It's better to wait for the correct timing so you don't make a mistake. Just notice what that is on your body. Feel free to pause this video if you need to. The next statement, the right time to start your business is the moment you're willing to take responsibility for what happens next. There may be supportive transits, there may be not. If challenges arise, you'll adjust. If something fails, you'll refine. If the path shifts, you'll respond. The timing in itself does not guarantee success. Success will be dependent on how much you're willing to participate in the process regardless. Just notice what that does in your body. The first statement leans a little bit more on certainty and control. And the second one leans more on capacity and trust, which is essential for surrendering to the outcome, right? Trusting that something is unfolding, trusting that you are loved and held by the universe, even when you don't get what you want, even when things didn't go as planned, and that you can handle it, right? It's trust in self and trust in the universe. So just noticing, did you feel an expansion somewhere? Did you feel a contraction? Was there an openness? Was there a constriction? Was there a heaviness? Was there a lightness? The thing about Pisces is that it's the last sign of the zodiac. So especially with Mercury retrograde here, it's going to conjoin with the North Node. We just had the cazimi on March 7th. All of this in the first few weeks of March. This is pulling us towards an evolution, towards something new. And I really feel like because this is in the sign of Pisces, this has finality to it. This has weight to it. And right now we're being asked to notice, right? Because if we don't notice, then we don't know what pattern is coming up. What patterns have kept showing up recently? Is it a thought? Is it something around avoidance? Like, are you procrastinating something? Or are you waiting for the right time? Are you waiting for the right person, the right circumstances? Right, this is a shadow energy of Pisces, becoming a victim to the world rather than joining in it deeply and doing what you can, knowing that there are things that you cannot control and controlling what you can, right? And what is the biggest thing we can control? It's our response. Remember, this interruption requires attention and awareness, which requires energy and participation. So your willingness to move differently, to be able to sit with yourself and say, am I avoiding this thing? Like, am I secretly keeping this a dream? Am I keeping this it's too big, or I'm too confused, I don't know how to move towards it? This feels like a lot of us could be closing out a major cycle. We just get really curious and remembering that control is not a problem, misplaced control is. I want to just end by asking you a question as well, which is that yesterday I was going to do this video and I had all these audio issues and I spent hours trying to fix it, and I couldn't fix it. I ended up just doing the video, editing it, trying to make the best of it. I spent over 4 hours on the video. And when I woke up today, I was like, okay, either I put out a video that I don't think is going to be very pleasant for the viewers, even with all the editing of my voice and all this, or I just try again. Do you think that I wasted my time for those 4 hours if that video ended up just being thrown away? Because essentially that's what I did. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments down below. And I have a video actually coming out soon that will be talking about the different types of desire in our lives. So if you are thinking like, I don't know if this is a true desire of mine, that video will dive a little bit deeper into that. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you are on my Substack, join my newsletter if that is of interest to you as well. And thanks so much for your attention today. Thanks for sharing your energy with me. I don't take it lightly. I'll see you next time.